beauty, brains, and grace. Amina and Fatima were two sisters who lived in a small village in the heart of a prosperous African kingdom. As the daughters of a respected chief, they had always been held in high regard by their community. They found themselves preparing for a ceremony that would elevate them to a new level of prestige and honor. The king, who had ruled the kingdom with wisdom and grace for many years, was in search for his sixth wife, and both Amina and Fatima had been invited to participate in the royal selection process. Being chosen as the king's wife was a highly coveted position in the kingdom. The king's wives were not simply decorative figures, they were his ministers, and were responsible for handling a wide range of important responsibilities in the kingdom. They were trusted advisors, skilled diplomats, and powerful leaders in their own right. Participating in the royal selection process was an honor, reserved only for the daughters of chiefs. This was a reflection of the high status that chiefs held in the kingdom, and the respect that their families were accorded. From a young age, Amina and Fatima had been groomed for the royal court, and were well versed in the art of royal etiquette. Amina had smooth, dark chocolate skin that radiated in the sun, with a texture so soft it was like silk to the touch. Her long limbs moved with the fluidity of a dancer, and she exuded an effortless elegance that left those around her in awe. Fatima was just as tall and graceful, with a skin tone that was the color of caramel, with a smooth and glowing texture. Her movements were light and airy, like a butterfly, and her smile could light up the darkest of rooms. Together, the two sisters made an impressive sight. With their impeccable manners and effortless charm, they were a credit to their upbringing and heritage. As the royal selection process approached, Amina and Fatima were fully immersed in the traditional preparations that were required for the ceremony. They spent hours each day practicing their dance moves, perfecting their posture, and learning the intricacies of courtly etiquette. In addition to these physical preparations, the sisters also devoted themselves to sharpening their minds and enhancing their intellectual capabilities. They studied philosophy, history, and politics, and practiced the art of diplomacy and negotiation. The entire village was abuzz with excitement as the day of the ceremony approached. People from far and wide came to witness the spectacle and to catch a glimpse of the young women who were competing for the king's favor. Amina and Fatima were nervous but also excited as they made their way to the palace, accompanied by their family and friends. They were dressed in their finest traditional clothing that had been carefully crafted for the occasion. As they approached the palace gates, they could feel the weight of history and tradition bearing down on them. Before the actual competition began, the girls were first subjected to a thorough physical examination by the Queen Mother and the palace physicians. This examination was designed to ensure that the girls were chaste and in good health. Amina and Fatima watched nervously as the other girls were examined one by one. They could see the looks of disappointment on the faces of some of the candidates, as they were disqualified for various reasons. Some had blemishes or scars on their skin, while others had poor posture or lacked grace in their movements. Finally, it was their turn to be examined. The Queen Mother and the palace physicians scrutinized them carefully, checking their eyesight, hearing, and general physical health. After what seemed like an eternity, the examinations were over. Amina and Fatima breathed a sigh of relief as they were given the all-clear to participate in the actual competition. They knew that the real challenge was still ahead of them, but they were relieved to have cleared this first hurdle. The next stage of the selection process was designed to test the young women's poise, confidence, and communication skills. Amina and Fatima stepped forward with grace and elegance, greeting the king and his court with reverence and respect. The king then asked each of the candidates a series of questions, ranging from their interests and hobbies to their views on the most pressing issues facing the kingdom. Amina and Fatima answered each question thoughtfully and eloquently, showcasing their intelligence and their ability to think on their feet. The competition was fierce, with each young woman trying to outshine the others with their beauty, charm, and intelligence. But Amina and Fatima held their own, impressing the king and his court. As the selection process progressed, only 5 contestants remained. Amina and Fatima were among them. Each of the young women had their own unique qualities that made them stand out from the others, but there was one in particular who seemed to catch the king's eye. Her name was Zainab, and she was a vision of beauty and grace. Her skin was as smooth and as dark as polished ebony, her eyes sparkled like diamonds in the sun, and her smile was warm and inviting. But it was not just her physical attributes that had found the king's favor. It was also her intelligence, her wit, and her kind heart. Zainab had a way with words that was both eloquent and persuasive, and she was able to articulate her views on a wide range of issues with clarity and conviction. She was also kind and compassionate, always willing to lend a helping hand to those in need. Amina and Fatima were impressed by Zainab's charm and charisma, and they knew that she was a worthy rival. But they did not let their admiration for her distract them from their own goals. They continued to work hard, striving to demonstrate their own unique qualities, in the hopes of winning the king's favor. Finally, Amina and Zainab stood before the king as the final contestants, their eyes fixed on the king's face, waiting to hear his decision. The king rose from his throne and announced that he would deliberate on his decision with the council of elders and the queen mother. Amina and Zainab exchanged nervous glances, realizing that they would have to wait another day to learn their fate. Amina was thrilled to have made it this far, but she felt a sense of disappointment and regret. She knew that Zainab was a worthy opponent and a truly exceptional young woman. The night before the announcement, Amina gathered her courage and made her way to Zainab's room. She found her sitting by the window, staring out at the stars. "Amina," Zainab said softly, turning to look at her. "What brings you here?" "I wanted to talk to you," Amina said, her voice catching in her throat. "I just wanted to say, Zainab, you will make a wonderful wife to the king. You are beautiful, intelligent, and wise beyond your years. You will be a great diplomat and advisor to the king, and I know that you will serve our people with honor and distinction." Zainab's eyes filled with tears as Amina spoke. The two girls embraced, tears streaming down their faces, and held each other tightly. In that moment, all their differences and rivalries melted away, and they saw each other for who they truly were, two young women with dreams and aspirations, both deserving of respect and admiration. The next day, Zainab was announced as the winner of the competition, and Amina congratulated her with genuine warmth and affection. She bowed to show her respect to the new queen, and the two women embraced once more, tears of joy and relief mingling on their cheeks. Amina and Zainab's friendship continued to thrive long after. They remained close friends, confidants, and sisters, supporting each other through all of life's challenges and triumphs. In the end, the story of Amina and Zainab teaches us an important lesson about humility and grace. Amina's willingness to recognize and appreciate Zainab's strengths, even though she didn't win the competition, is a shining example of how we can elevate and support the talents of those around us for the greater good. Thank you for watching our story, Beauty, Brains, and Grace, and we hope you enjoyed it. What lessons did you draw from this story? Share them with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Tales of the Savanna for more exciting stories. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time, in the Savanna.